Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Spartan Sports Report here on TV3. Ron and I are very happy to have a special guest with us, Ron.
Well, it's not me because I'm in the special guest seat. It's actually John who says he's going to sit right there since he's the chief.
Yeah, that's right. I'll sit where I want.
Yeah.
Well, he had a choice of chairs, I guess.
Yeah, he did. Well, he's the boss, so he can sit wherever he wants.
He is the boss, you know.
We had to twist his arm to get him on the show.
Yeah, I don't want to come on.
Yeah, he didn't want to come on. So.
Well, it's nice to have John Pawsey with us, who is the head of TV3, the general manager.
Thank you.
And John is going to talk to us about how the folks at home see TV3 and see the Spartans play basketball. John?
Yeah.
Nothing like putting you on the spot.
We have cameras. It actually, there's a couple different ways we do it. For home games, we have a production van, and we work with the high school students.
Yes.
We try and integrate them into all the positions, so we teach them how to do live sports production, which is really difficult. We usually run 4 cameras, 2 of them on the floor, wireless return back to the truck. And those are always run by the high school students. And then occasionally we have them in the truck. So we've got a position that handles, and this is where it gets really complicated. We've got a position that handles graphics and audio and time clock and scoreboard all together over there.
Okay.
And then on the left-hand side, we've got regular switching, which includes going to commercial spots, adding graphics in from the other side of the truck, and also instant replay. So when you're doing that, you're actually doing 2 things at once, one with your left hand, one with your right
Okay.
hand. So it's really difficult to get into that. But once you do it, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it when I'm in there. And then when we do, they do actually. Like I said, it's difficult and complicated.
Yeah.
So we don't push them too hard on those instant replays over in there because that's hard to do.
Right.
And then when we're doing away games, that's where you come in.
Yeah.
And Clint's been with you this year, and Justin will go with 1 camera, and we tie in an ability to send the scoreboard back to us here at the studio. So all of that combines together, comes back to the studio where I am. I add in the graphics here at the studio, and then also control the audio and go into commercial spots and things like that. And then we push it back out to both cable and on YouTube.
Which is interesting to note, which when we are at home doing the games, we can hear you. We can hear you from the truck. We can see the commercials. When we're away, I can't hear you because you're back here at the studio, so we're relying.
There's a delay.
And then there's a 30-second delay.
There is.
What we are talking, you're hearing 30 seconds later.
I am, yes.
And so when I go to a commercial break, I say we'll be back in 1 minute. I look at my clock and it's 34. Then I have to wait until 36 to come back because I can't hear or see the commercial. Now, every once in a while, Justin will have his phone to where I can see, but again, that's 30 seconds behind.
off, right.
So usually if the second commercial goes, then I know that's
time to go.
That's time to go back on. So, but not all the times can I see where we're setting at. And there's a lot of times where we are so far up, it's really hard to see the scoreboard, the camera. I mean, it's
and yet it works out pretty well.
It works out pretty well, yeah. People don't understand
usually we come right back and you're right there. So the timing works out very well as long as we trust the clock.
Trust the clock, trust that clock. Because there's been times where we were experimenting, working this out, and you were like, "You're coming back," because you would text me.
You would come back too early.
Come back too early. I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then we worked it out to where I'll go 2 seconds after the minute, and so
the end product I think looks pretty good.
I think so, yeah.
And we've had a lot of feedback on that too. We have people watching from all over the country. And occasionally they'll post to that, send us mail, and let us know that they appreciate being able to see the Spartans play, no matter where they are.
That's right.
They're watching on YouTube mostly?
They are. If they're out of the area, they'll be able to watch it.
These youngsters that help you on the telecast, where do they come from?
They're part of the CHS media class.
Okay.
They have a sports production class up there where they teach them how to do, and that's Sydney Job, teaches them how to do sports production. Of course, she's done that in the past with us as well as with Ball State. So she's got a lot of experience with that.
Are these mostly juniors and seniors?
They are. Yep.
Okay.
And occasionally, I think we'll work with some younger ones too. Just every once in a while, we'll get them in there, which is great because we want to get them involved as early as possible.
Sure.
Get them trained on how to follow the ball and things like that. It's a skill to learn.
Yeah, and camera-wise, the camera work has been very good this year. They've done a good job with some of the camera work. Yeah.
I think so.
We can see it when we're at home. So.
How big a class do they have, John? Can you tell us?
I am not sure. Probably 30 in the sports production class. Maybe less, maybe 20.
Oh, so that's separate.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There's a news production class up there too, and I think they have 15 in there. And then they have a beginning production, which is where the sophomores come in. I think there's probably 15 in there.
Oh, wow.
So now their program is on TV3 when? They do
the
a
news program
daily,
yes, daily. They're live at 10:40.
Okay.
And then they re-air at 5 p.m. and 10:50 p.m.
And what's the program consist of?
The CHS Today, that's the newscast that's actually been broadcast in Connorsville, which is also a very interesting story, since 1971. We're the longest running school news broadcast in the country.
Yeah.
That they do a live daily newscast.
How many communities have stations like TV3?
Not a lot. In Indiana, there's probably just a handful. We may have 10 or 12 throughout the state. And then in other states, though, they're practically in every town. So
Really?
it just depends on how that was introduced in that particular state at the time. And of course, that has a lot to do with cable law, which came out in that put me on the spot here, 1970, 1971, that's right. Yeah. And those are things, 1972, sorry. Those are things that I follow along. I've got,
Sure.
I've taken classes in cable law. And now, of course, in Indiana, we're under a state cable franchise, so everything that I learned is irrelevant. But it makes it a lot simpler, I'm telling you.
And how's the program financed, or the station financed?
Channel 3 is financed through the cable franchise fees, and we're actually looking at needing to expand that now because people are leaving cable to go to streaming media, and of course, that's our only funding right now is through cable franchise. So we're actually seeing a bit of an issue with that right now. And we're working with local governments to see how we can continue to be funded, primarily because of the new state law requiring live streaming of public meetings, which we're experts at. We've been doing that for a long time. So whereas all the other municipalities throughout the state, they're trying to figure out how to do that. Well, we've been doing it for 25 years, so we've got to figure it out. So
You're a step ahead.
And there's a difference between public access and government access, and we're a government access?
Well, actually, we're a little bit more. There's 3 different options. There's public education and government. We are actually education and government.
Yes.
Which is why we have the high school, and we do high school sports as part of education.
Okay.
And we do a lot of educational programming, too.
But yeah.
So we
Lisa.
work with the library on reading programs, craft programs for kids, and other things like that. Occasionally, right now we're out of production on it, but we do a cooking show with drawing a blank, Purdue Extension Office, Extension Kitchen. So right now they're a little short on staff over there, so we're giving them a break. So, but that show is a lot of fun.
I know they appreciate that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know you like that.
Oh yeah, they usually leave the food here.
Yeah.
Well, although the Spartans aren't doing it anymore, there is some basketball in high school in Indiana to talk about. We might. The Spartans boys basketball season, unfortunately, came to an end during sectional play after beating the 19-4 Hamilton Heights Huskies 44-42 in the first round. The Spartans fell to the 9-15 Newcastle Trojans 61-41. So that ended their career for the year. Overall, the Spartans finished their season with a record of 10-15, 4-3 in the conference action. In gymnastics, though, the Spartan ladies advanced to the regional competition last week and finished in 6th place overall. On the bars, Kiara McKinney scored 8.625, just 1.125 out of qualifying for the state. In spring sports, as we've been talking about, are in the air. They're about to get underway. Spartan track team will be opening their season on March the 15th away at Pike, and that's co-ed. And there'll be an individual championships thing is what they'll be going for. Varsity softball begins at home against Franklin Central on March the 21st. Varsity baseball begins on March the 15th at Heritage Christian. Boys golf will tee off for the first time on April the 5th at Edinburgh, and girls tennis will begin April the 8th at Newcastle. So that kind of brings us up to date on how it's going so far. We might review what's going on this week. It's a regional time around high school, as a sectional were all completed last week, and Connersville has a couple of connections with two teams. Delta, in fact, that won the sectional here at Connersville. They will be playing in the Newcastle regional, and they'll be taking on, I've got it written down here someplace, Delta is 17-6 on the season. We'll be meeting Fort Wayne Blackhawk Christian, who are 24-3, and that game will be at 7 o'clock, I believe.
And where's that regional at?
That's at Newcastle, the region at Newcastle, yeah.
The sectional was at Newcastle, wasn't it?
And
so the regional's going to be there too? Wow, I didn't know that. Wow.
And at 4 o'clock, it'll be that'll be the 2A one, one of the section or one of the regionals, and that'll be at Martinsville and Centerville, right up the road from us at 20-7. Their record take on Park Heritage, who is 23-7. So a little bit of a connection with teams that are still in the running. Unfortunately, the Spartans didn't make it, but there's always next year.
Yeah. It was a season that I think a couple of quarters could have turned the record around a little bit. We had some quarters here and there against Greensburg, Lawrenceburg. There were some games that could have gone our way that didn't, that we let slip through our fingers, or we got into a huge hole and we couldn't get out of. So, I mean, the record was not indicative of the effort that these boys put out on the floor. So hopefully, this freshman team was tough.
Yes.
So get them some more time, and the juniors that will be now seniors will have some more experience under their belt, and this team should be pretty good next year.
What do you think makes a good coach? What do you guys think? You've seen a lot of ball games.
Wow.
Patience would be one of the things.
Involvement with the students, and just caring about their development, I think, is incredibly important.
I think a coach, especially at the high school level, and I could be wrong, but I think a coach any level really recognize the talents that their kids have and brings that out in them.
It's also good to see a coach needs to be able to tell which players work well with each other. I mean, we saw that several times this season, where occasionally they just gelled perfectly. You saw some passes that were mind blowing. They were just excellent.
Yes.
And whenever that happened, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
That was amazing to watch, fun to watch.
Yeah. It just didn't seem like there was that it didn't stay consistent lineup wise. But yeah, that for me as a coach, and I would think the younger, especially basketball, you get kids that are going to be way up here in third grade and kids down here. And so what do? They put them at center, and they don't bother teaching these tall kids how to dribble. And then when they get to junior high and high school, the smaller kids are sometimes taller, and these kids that played center the whole time, they don't know how to dribble. And so they need to teach every kid how to play, no matter how tall they are younger, teach them how to play the guard position, so that way they can dribble when they get, because you know how it is. I mean, kids, I was a shrimpo, as they called it back in the day, and I was one of the smallest kids until I grew, had a growth spurt when I was in junior high school.
So you think down on the middle school is when they actually start developing these kids and deciding who's going to be a point guard in basketball, who's going to be the quarterback in football, and work on it that way? Is that?
I think that's where kids start knowing where they want to play.
Okay.
And especially again when you're starting to play basketball, it's good to learn all the positions. Because, but again, basketball is you put your tall kids in the middle. You put your tall kids
In the front line,
in the front
right.
line.
You want them
and
to
so,
be able to rebound.
Yeah, so you want them to get the rebounds, but you don't teach them how to dribble that much. You have their smaller kids be the shooters and the dribblers. Well, again, when they grow, sometimes the smaller kids end up taller than the taller
right.
kids when
We've
they were
seen that
younger.
happen, yes.
And those kids that never were developed to be, and so I just think we need to teach kids how to dribble the basketball.
The basics is what you're saying.
Always,
yes.
At that young age all the way up. And then when they get older, they'll it all works itself out where they, and again, coaches, you have to recognize the talents of these kids.
Yes. And then I think they all work together with the head coach. I mean, he tells them what he expects, so they teach these kids his system. So as they advance up,
and I hate that. That's one thing. It's like his system. Well, what happens if a kid doesn't fit his system? I think the coach needs to recognize the talents of the kids and coach them to that talent. I mean, I'd hate to have Barry Sanders on my team and then be a quarterback run. I mean, that'd waste Barry Sanders' talent. My system be I'm a pass-heavy coach. I have the West Coast offense, but I got Barry Sanders as a running back. No, my system would be I excel on the players that I have. That's what I would do as a coach. Any team I'm coaching, I have to go by the talent I have and develop that. That's what coaches do. We develop people. But I hear that all the time about system. Well, what happens is that Larry Bird might not fit a certain system.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's interesting to watch these kids grow up through the grades.
Yeah. And see them develop and grow.
Yes.
I mean, I turned out to be a sumo wrestler. Yeah.
Coaching is a big job. It's a big responsibility.
It is. I couldn't do it at the high school level. Could you, John?
Oh, sure.
Of course you
I'd
can.
be very bad at it, but I could do it.
And I don't think they're well paid either.
No, they're not. Well, especially when you're teachers too. Like Coach Mack, he's a teacher too. So he's got that pressure of being a teacher. Carrie had the pressure of being a teacher. Right?
Yes.
Klein had the pressure of being a teacher. So he's a teacher. He's seeing the kids. Teaching the kids, dealing with the parents that way, dealing with the parents. Of being a coach. And Andrea said something very interesting one time, and I'm sure you remember this. I think we talked about it, where she said that he because the kids didn't have the lineup wasn't regular, and I always thought that was very odd. But she said something that kind of make sense, where it's like he's teaching the kids that, hey, this is something you got to earn every time. It's not a given, and sometimes kids need to understand that you got to keep. You don't set that you got to start. You keep working at it to keep it. Like when you get married, you don't stop dating. You keep dating. Well, when you get the starting position, you keep working hard at it to keep it. And sometimes Coach Mack might reward a kid for, hey, he's working harder at practice than you are. He's going to get the start. And so that might, that's sometimes good too.
Right. Jim, John, you recently taped gymnastics meet, didn't you?
We did. That's the first time we've ever done that.
Okay.
How'd that go?
It was actually pretty smooth. We had some help in advance. We really planned it out in advance to try and figure out how to do it. And it was a very long meet, about 2.5 hours, going on 3 hours. And it was, we pretty much focused on, of course, the Connorsville girls. And because that's the home advantage. But it's difficult to compare because they go in sequence. So the Spartans will go through one particular event while the other school is going through another event. So you can't compare them side by side as to how they're doing. And you don't know until the end, and then everybody adds the scores up. So for a newbie on that, it was very confusing for me. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Because there's 4 events going on, and they rotate. But we had great coverage on the floor. We had cameras down there and up top. We had really good help from one of the girls. Don't remember her name, I'm sorry. And but she was really great at giving us play-by-play kind of, what's going on, talk to us about the girls, and really giving us a lot of information. And we had one of the mothers of the gymnasts up there.
Good.
And they were helping talk about it along the way too. So really appreciate their help because they did a great job talking about it. Because without them, I don't know what we would have said.
Right, yeah.
Could have put you in there and you could have
No,
talked
I would
about
have
it.
had no clue. That's a flip. There's
Exactly.
a twist or two.
I don't know what that is they're doing over there.
Yeah, that's better than what I could
But
do.
I thought the coverage was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were happy to be able to do that for them. It's something that Joanne had requested that we do, and
Oh, yes.
it took us a while to actually put the plan together.
Yeah.
But it was a new
Except
sport. So
that's the thing people don't understand is like the planning, the pre-planning of everything that you have to do to put the games on. And one thing, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I love tennis. Tennis is like my favorite sport. But the logistics of putting on tennis.
there's
would
several
be-
games going at once.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how we
games.
keep up.
Yeah, how would you keep up?
We need 20 cameras.
Right, yeah. Let's switch over to court 3, and because you don't want to miss a kid's game.
Yeah.
And plus, where do you put the cameras at? I mean, so
That would come
Yeah.
down to knowing in advance which ones are the contested meets. You want to cover those. You want to cover the players who are actually performing at their top.
Yeah.
And when you do that, though, you're missing the other players. You're not covering them, and so
Right.
it's very difficult to cover something like
Sure.
that, which is why we've shied away from that. And then there's golf. I don't know how in
Yeah,
the world to do
yeah,
that.
I-
I've seen professionals do that production, and I'm like, I don't know. That's crazy. They
that's-
got to put them in tall towers and stuff. No, I'm not doing that.
Oh yeah,
It's all over the place.
I like something tall where I'm riding a roller coaster going down. And that's
Yeah.
not happening. So
So
I think TV3 does a great job covering local sports, so they
I
really
think
do.
so.
thank you.
yeah.
And then we've got spring sports coming up.
That's right.
So springs, that's really difficult for us because we want to do a lot of the games,
Yes.
softball, baseball in particular,
Mm-hmm.
and it really comes down to how's the weather that day and the day before. Because we can't do production in the rain.
That's right.
The cameras would be exposed,
right,
and that
that
would be a
makes
very
sense.
bad thing. And if the weather the day before is a washout and we try to drive the truck in there,
Oh, yeah, you're
then
not
we're going to be
getting
a
out.
permanent fixture.
Yeah, you're not getting out.
So it all comes down to how the weather is that day.
Yes.
But we do intend to do some production again this spring coming up. We'll try to get a baseball and of course softball in.
Interesting. The baseball and softball, very good on TV3, I think. Yes.
When we can get the coverage, we
Yes.
enjoy doing it because we do a good job of that. We deploy a camera all the way in the outfield, get across the pitcher's shoulder, so we can see the pitch coming in across the plate.
That's
That comes
good.
from watching
Very
professionals
interesting.
and how they
yeah,
produce
how
it.
they do it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we've done the Little League before, or Babe
Oh,
Ruth.
sure,
We've
yeah.
done. We remember
We have
we've
done
done some
Babe Ruth
Babe Ruth
games.
games before. That was
And that's
a lot
always
of
fun too.
Yeah.
That's very competitive.
Yeah, it's always fun to see the kids out there playing and the parents getting involved and the parents seeing their kids do some being on TV.
Our problem is usually with the Babe Ruth season, it's short.
It is way
It's,
too short.
it's only like
yeah.
6 weeks.
Yes.
it's
And then
way
they're
too
done,
short. Yeah.
and it's tough to try and schedule production in there with
Right.
everything else we do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and of course now we're picking up more meetings, so it's
Yeah.
it's even more challenging.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's the thing. When we talked about this before the sports season started, all the meetings that you guys have to do now.
well, under the live streaming law, and that's where it's expanding
Yeah.
astronomically because that law doesn't just pick up what we're currently doing. It says any board that can should be there as well, and so we have to cover that. So if they're in the courthouse or in City Hall, we're picking those up. So, for instance, tomorrow we'll be taping and broadcasting live the Urban Enterprise Association because it has to do with tax dollars and it falls under the law. So we're actually, and we don't have to do that yet. It doesn't happen until July 1st this year. I don't like waiting till the last minute.
No.
So I want to get this into a fluid, where we're functioning, we're broadcasting, we're doing
Yes.
exactly what needs to be done before we're required to do it. So waiting till the last minute is just a recipe for disaster.
Talking about how things used to be. I mean, I remember when we first started, Fran, which was 16 years ago.
Yes.
Back in 2009, we didn't do everything live.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't do everything live, and so we did a game, and then it aired the next week. And now, where we're at now, it's just, I think we just had two. When I did games with Ben a couple years prior to that, I think we just had two cameras.
Right.
Just at the top, we didn't have anything on the floor, and then things started slowly getting implemented. And then when you guys did away games, I think it was just Justin's phone. I think
It really comes down to as technology becomes both available and affordable, and that's the big key. It has to be affordable. Then we'll integrate that and make it happen.
Yeah, because I remember when you guys started doing away games, it was just Fran because you couldn't. And I think you guys did the away game where you just talked really loudly into the mic. Anyway, I think Justin told me something like that. But anyways, it was definitely primitive and not how it is now.
Right.
Yeah.
We always want to be as professional as absolutely possible,
yeah,
and so it's always pushing to be that much more professional.
But there are a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's funny that go on that people don't know about.
Oh well, yeah, because I can text you during the production.
Yeah, like the pick six.
Yeah.
What do you see on the horizon for technology, John, as far as the business we're in?
You never know. As artificial intelligence kicks in, they can start planning things for you. No, that's good enough or
Explain
not.
AI for us.
Well, artificial intelligence is where the computer actually can almost guess what's going to happen next, and so it stays ahead of the play. And you see that a little bit right now with schools. After COVID, they started integrating what's called Huddle Cam.
Yes.
And we have one here, and Huddle Cam uses a little bit of AI sequencing, not exactly AI, but it's in a logarithm that follows the motion and tries to pick up all the action within it. The only problem is that it picks up the dominant motion. So on a fast break for basketball, for instance, the ball's way over there and the camera's looking over here and we missed the shot. So I don't trust that. I think that people need to be involved, and I think it's also important for students to be involved as well.
Sure.
Because wherever you go, you're still going to need those camera skills. Because you're never going to be able to outperform what a person can do, knowing how the game works, knowing how the play is developing. You're always going to be able to beat an artificial intelligence, I think.
And that Huddle Cam was one of the reasons why, and it may not be, but one of the reasons why we don't do the sectional anymore. Something.
Well, no, the reason we don't do the sectional has to do with the money.
Well, I figured that, but I thought that had something.
The IHSAA a few years ago, after COVID, they decided to pull it all in house to IHSAA.tv. And here's what I understood from them: is that we could produce the sectional games, but we have to pay for it, and then we can only push that signal to IHSAA.tv, where they'll sell that to people. So I would have to pay, and then other people would have to pay for what we already paid for, and I'm like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
I've always wanted for Channel 3 to be an outlet to provide for the fans.
For free.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, we have some sponsors that help us, and that just covers the basic costs.
Yeah.
And helps us, with, just the basic needs that we have.
Yeah.
And, the idea is just to provide for the community, to be a community broadcast channel.
That's right. That's what we're intended to be. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I mean, it costs money to air this. Of course, we make the big bucks with it.
Yeah, thanks for volunteering, by the way. We really appreciate your efforts.
I love it. Yeah, that's. But again, this is something that's for the community. That Clint and I love to do. Fran loves to do it. You've been doing. You're a legend.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to have Fran with us and broadcasting with us for a long time.
Yeah, I remember doing that first game. It was the last game of the season, February 25th. I remember, 2009.
John, what's the average cost to the viewers, like for the state finals? Do you have any idea what the cost will be?
I actually haven't looked into that. Mm-hmm. Typically, though, you're looking, for purchasing a live stream. I would guess probably $10, and then when you get to the state level, it may be more. Now, state, typically they pick up, especially in basketball, they'll pick up and actually broadcast it live. Channel 40 out of Indianapolis has done that several times. So it's a little bit different at the state level, I think, because they'll actually buy out the rights from IHSE TV to do something we could never do. That's just way too much money.
Right, yeah.
No, that's right.
But if you're talking about sectionals, regionals, things like that, through IHSA TV, I know it's like probably $10, maybe $15. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly because I haven't checked the prices recently.
Well, it's been a real problem because we feel those things should be available to everybody, whether you can afford it or not.
Well, that's the way that broadcasting has always worked. Is you provide it to the community over the air has been our traditional, and then you pick up sponsors to cover the costs.
Right.
So that's the way I was raised anyway.
Thanks everybody for watching the edition of Spartan Sports Report. We appreciate you viewing this. Thanks a lot. Good night, everybody.